Hello and welcome to the Sigma Update, the show where we take what's been happening on in the Ergo community and try to give it to you in little bite-sized chunks and hopefully under an hour, depending on how it goes. I'm QX and welcome back, CW. I missed you so much last week. How you doing?
Oh, thanks very much. Pleasure to be back here and chatting to your beautiful face again. Yeah, it's fantastic. I've been a little bit under the weather, as many of sort of know throughout the ecosystem. But yeah, I'm back here and back on the horse and delivering some content for you guys. So yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right, let's get right into it. We'll start off with our first segment called Who's Who in the Community. And this one is a unique one. Our first one is somebody you've probably not heard about if you're not in the dev chats or any community dev chats like that. His handle is PSB Boris, and he actually comes to us recently from the Crandano blockchain. And I met him actually in some backend Tosi and Aneta chats. He does a lot of work for Tosi. He's mainly an infrastructure dude. And some things that he does, let me share my screen real quick. For Crandano at least, and I'm mentioning Crandano simply because he hopes to do this for Ergo. He runs a repository for Cardano nodes, relay nodes that can install on free BSD. And he is planning to work on some packages that will allow you to do that with the Ergo nodes so that you can have a repository where you can do like a 5-minute install. I think they advertise on this site somewhere. Yeah, right here. Very nice. He also, the moment he came over to Ergo, the dude hit this ground with his feet running. He was messing around on the Ergo Explorer. And as we know, CW, Ergo Explorer gets a lot of heat from the central one, but you know, that's mainly because there's massive amount of people hitting it and using it all the time. So
especially in peak periods, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So he came in and he, well, I'm on the rich list, but let's back up. He came in and he made his own node, load balanced it, did some magic caching that he does with his infrastructure skills, and this thing is extremely fast. So if you're a community dev and you want to hit Explorer for some info or any nodes, you can use this address here. You can also, if you're a community member that is not a dev, let's make sure I don't have any thing. Okay, good while it's up. in Nautilus, you can go to settings and developer mode, and you can see the GraphQL server in the Explorer URL. And as you can see, I've switched these over to his instances here. And my goodness, if, you know, before when Explorer is really busy, I'd open up Nautilus and you'd see the spinny thing for maybe 10 seconds and then it'd update your prices. Ever since I've switched to this, it's, you know, a matter of a second or two and boom, your price is updated. And this is, you know, CW, the great thing about the decentralization of Ergo, where anybody can spin up an Explorer. We take the load off the main, you know, we call it the main Explorer as far as that goes. And you're good to go as far as that goes.
Yeah, fantastic piece of utility. Obviously, not just having the Explorer instance there, but also running GraphQL as well. So obviously taking huge load off the main Explorer, like you just mentioned, and yeah, being able to sort of interact with the blockchain through a central entity, but not have that lag time where you'll see on the main Explorer itself when it does hit peak time. So yeah, fantastic utility, and I hope a lot more people sort of do run this infrastructure because, like you said, it does decentralize the network even further.
Exactly. Next up, CW, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Next up, we have Crypto Quokka. Nice little sort of touch there to my Aussie heritage, and Quokka being native to Australia. Happy little animals they are, and happy little person this guy is. Crypto Quokka, if you don't know, is the founder and front-end dev of the NFT marketplace, Sky Harbor. So yeah, he's been active in the community for a very long time now. Also was one of the founders of Ergo Source, which is pretty cool little NFT series here. As you can see, QX has brought that up on screen.
I believe he founded that with his sister, right?
Yeah, with his sister Jasmine. So it's been cool to sort of see people working together within the community. Like I know Crypto Quokka's working in conjunction with a number of sort of different projects, but yeah, having his sister involved there as well, keeping the family ties in, it's fantastic to see. So yeah, you can reach Quokka as well. He's always open into the in the general discussion channels and throughout Discord, and you can even find him on Twitter. He's pretty active there. And just also like to mention that I do like the new Twitter bot that they've got for to announce the sales
Oh,
of
that is
different
amazing.
NFTs. So
Yeah,
I think that's a fantastic little piece of utility.
it is. You know, they had it without the image before, I think, right? And then they popped in the image of the NFT that was sold. It's really nice to be scrolling through your Twitter feed, seeing that, seeing
Yeah.
what was bought. It really adds some good value and some pathway in from an external social part into the NFT space in Ergo.
Yeah, definitely.
And Crypto, he's mainly a front end dev, I believe, right?
Yeah, mainly working on the front ends. I know he's sort of working with Night Owl a little, I believe, and then the duckpools.io side of things. But yeah, main sort of frontier is the Sky Harbor, like I just mentioned, and they've done a fantastic job having that sort of simple interface, easy to navigate. You've got the collections and everything there. I think it's fantastic little layout.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe he also is working on what he just pinged me. Yeah, there it is. He is working on an API feed for Sky Harbor so that essentially anybody can build their own UI to interact with the smart contracts that they use for this. So
Awesome.
super nifty. If you want to come up with your own idea as far as that and you have front end knowledge, you just build it, tap into their contracts, and you're good to go. You have your own kind of NFT space right there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great. All right, let's move on to another mention. We're doing 3 this week. It is Crandano. You do see him posting a lot of announcements. He'll post updates in Discords. He is very active in the Sigmanauts program, so you'll see him around that. You may see him reach out to you for certain things. He's working, I believe, with Noah as well on an ambassadorship program that we're working on for Sigmanauts. Right now, he's been helping kickstart Singularity.net's or SingularityNet's ambassador program. And he gave me, I gotta read this. He said, I'm into AI, VR music, and long walks on the beach. And
Ties in with your beautiful rose petal bath.
Yes, exactly. It's just all the love around Ergo. It's fantastic. And he wasn't sure if I wanted to mention this, but I think we definitely should. But Crandano is starting a book club for Ergonauts and anyone interested. So if you are interested in joining a book club with like-minded thinkers, you can follow him on Twitter at @Crandano.
Yeah, I love the little recap messages that he sends throughout the marketing groups and things like that. It'll basically summarize, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 things that has happened throughout the week that's pretty notable, and he'll provide links and everything like that. So people putting that sort of stuff together is invaluable, in my opinion, and it just keeps makes it easy for people to keep their finger on the pulse. If they haven't been in the chats all week and things like that, they can just do a nice little recap of those messages and things. So yeah, it's great little utility there.
All right, well, that's it for Who's Who. Let's move on to dev updates for Dummies.
Yeah, so we actually had the activation of the 5.0 soft fork. So basically what that does is it introduces a hybrid costing model where we used to previously only have ahead of time costings where costs were calculated to block cost was calculated. Now what that introduces is a hybrid method where there's a just-in-time aspect as well, where script execution's calculated like at the time of execution, and then the fee for that is then put into the block of for the ahead of time costing. So in essence, what it does in the simple terms is it allows more transactions and scripts and things like that to be able to be sort of jammed into a block itself. So it doesn't, the block times themselves, they don't increase, or they don't decrease, sorry. The block times will still be at a set, or roughly 2 minutes. The protocol will try and keep the block times at 2 minutes for over a 24-hour period. It just allows more transactions to be able to jammed into the blocks themselves. So at peak times and things like that, we'll see notable increases there. But there's a couple of tweets and comments being put out in regards to the efficiency gains. So we saw with ErgoPad, they basically decreased the sort of their staking payouts from around 50 blocks or so for that, to be able to process those payouts, and they can actually do it now in 2 blocks, which is fantastic. So that just shows the power of 5.0. And it's probably notable to say as well, like, this hasn't just happened overnight as well. Like it's
exactly
taken a 24 around 12 months to 18 months sort of time period to gather the information, research, and then sort of provide the coding, and then it has to go to the miners for a vote once it is actually sort of tested on the test net and everything, to be able to be processed and put onto the main chain itself for the soft fork. So yeah, there is a big process, and it's fantastic to see something this big and significant for the Ergo blockchain.
And that's amazing that, you're not speeding up block time. You're just jamming more ability to jam more info into the block. So you make, essentially, you do make those faster as far as that goes.
Yeah. So it's a win-win across the board, basically. So devs get faster processing and script execution and things like that from their side. That in turn then is fed into the users, and they have a better experience. But then also the miners then have a little bit more incentive by more fees being able to be put into the blocks themselves as well. So yeah, it's a win across the board. It's fantastic.
Okay, next up is a little update by Blobs-Topia. I know we spoke about this our first episode, but it's a nice little update for those of you playing it. Let me just share this. They've released a Windows executable for automatic fighting, and essentially I have this downloaded, and I'll show you that as well. We'll do a lot of screen sharing today. Here we go. So you can set some variables about starting the bot, stopping the bot, and such. You can set your seed phrase for your wallet in the environment file, for those of you that are familiar with it. And I know this is getting a little complicated for devs for dummies, but this really is something that if you dip your feet into and you get stuck, just reach out to somebody. Once you get the hang of editing these config files and putting, and creating an environment file, it's all the same after that, and it even sometimes traverses programming languages once you get the hang of that. But that's it. You set up some parameters. You set your seed phrase or your access to your wallet in the environment file, and then you hit go, and that thing sets itself as ready, and it fights anything that comes after it until you shut it off or you run out of funds.
Yeah.
Whichever comes first.
Probably the latter.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the most important thing, actually, big question here: have you managed to upgrade your crutch or not?
I have not.
Oh.
And you know what? I think I fought the Blobinator. Haley Pull? Is it? Am I saying that right? Haley Pull? Or Haley Push?
KDLL.
Yeah, I should have looked before I mentioned the name. Was very kind in the beginning when Noah and I were first there. The first couple of days, they gave us some wheat or some whatever the food is. Oats, yes, thank you. I've just been hammering the Blobinator every time I can remember, but I've won exactly 0 times. It's the Blobinator. I know. I've won a couple one-on-one fights with people, but I've never been able to get a Blobinator. They're pretty tough, that's for sure. And I think it's 1 in 6 or 5%, or it's a small chance, no matter what strength you are, that you're going to beat the Blobinator. But you do get a reward, and it's pretty neat after that.
Yeah, it's good fun just being able to interact with something so simple. It seems so simple, but it's so fun. And then the banter that goes along with it as well. Yeah, it's fantastic to see and observe everyone sort of getting involved with it. Yeah. But it's probably also wise to note, don't put the seed phrase of your main wallet in there. Just transfer a couple of erg here and there over to that one, and just be a little bit wise on that one.
All right, let's see. We are on to I didn't know where that was. And the first thing, let me type this in. I thought I was prepared.
This is really underutilized, I think, in the Ergo ecosystem.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It definitely deserves a lot more exposure, to be honest.
We got to switch to dark mode so we don't burn our eyeballs out there, CW.
Thank you for that.
So this is Ergo Tutorials. And this is curated by some community members. You can reach out to them on Twitter if you need to.
So Lato Pixel.
Yep. And thank you. And I actually first discovered this when I was in Ergo Hack 5, and I had my plan for what I was going to do with a payroll system. And I knew all the front end and the back end stuff for the off-chain stuff, but I had no idea how to interact with the blockchain or actually send the payments. So I did a Google search of like, can I do this in Python or something? And boom, there we go, sending Ergo with Python. And we're actually going to talk to the dev that wrote this in a little bit. So here's an example. You can click right here and you have a really nice tutorial. Let's mute it. A really nice tutorial about how to send Ergo with Python. You have using Ergo mobile wallet, Ergo node on a Mac, swap and stake Ergo pad, paper wallet as well. Nautilus. I mean, there's an endless amount of really nice tutorials. And on top of that, they are working really hard to, as you can see up here, English, Spanish, Italian, French, several different languages translated into to get the most exposure for our community as far as that goes. So they put a lot of effort into this.
Also, probably notable mention is the translation of the manifesto as well. That's also up there in different languages. So you can just tune in there and jump on and listen to the manifesto as well.
All right, let's move on to our next. I didn't know where that was. And I'm guessing a lot of you know where this next one is. But I want to show you anyway, because it can really help out with your purchasing decisions or your swapping decisions for that kind of thing. Let's go to something that moves around a little bit. There we go. I think Net is pretty busy on Spectrum. So you have your stuff, you're ready to send some, to do a swap. But if you look, you have this little button up here on the right to show you some charts. And let's show you what that does. So as we move our mouse over here, this means if I'm going from erg to neta, this means that back then at this time, I would get 586 neta for my erg. But as time went up, it looks like the price of neta is dropping a little bit. So now I'm going to get 605 neta per erg. You can switch the swap pair this way, and the same thing goes back way. So that means I'm going to get, as time went on, I get less erg back for the neta that I'm swapping in this chart. Swap back, same thing. If I'm swapping the other way, I get more neta for the erg that I'm sending. And it works with, it shows historic data for any token. And the farther you go back, you can see the bigger trend from a zoomed out view. I usually have this up all the time, CW, when I do swaps, just to make sure that I'm not buying or swapping after a massive spike that pops up.
Yeah, exactly. Me personally, if it was up to me, I'd have it on as default, but obviously you did mention there, and the whole point of this segment as well is making people aware that there is actually price charts and things on Spectrum. There's a little multiple sort of little buttons you can press here and there and different screens that bring up a lot of utility. So this is just one of those that's kind of hidden away a little bit. I don't think it's too obvious that there is the price charts there, but it's a fantastic utility. Like you did mention, you can see the overall price trend for long periods of time. And if you want to do a quick spot, then you can just jump on there and have a look and see QX has just dumped his bag of neta or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, it's fantastic little utility.
Exactly. Okay, the next what I want to show you, it's while we're still on this window. I just wanted to show you quickly. I know that Captain already had a video out when he first released the test version, but let me just show you real quick again. Now you can see all my TipperBot stuff. So we're going to send it to ourselves. We're going to throw the address in here. We are going to send, let's do love. Yeah, some love. And we are going to, and down here, you see where it says fee in Ergo? In Erg, we're going to change that to love. There we go. And we're going to zero out and trash the Erg. So I'm going to send one love to myself, and I'm going to pay the fee, the TX fee in love. And it's actually fairly funny. It automatically picks this, of course, because this is what the swap rate at the Babel box that was set up. And actually, I think I set it up, and Cafe may have set another one up. So that's one love is all it takes to pay the transaction fee. So we're going to hit confirm, and we're going to type in my password, which I just forgot, and success. There we go. We have now
Fantastic.
sent. Didn't pay a transaction fee, which was absolutely, well, I mean, I didn't pay it in Erg.
In
which
Erg,
cool.
yeah.
And we were talking about this the other day, right? About let me stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, perfect example there is you could create a pretty nice meme, and then you get a nice tip there from the Comet guys, and obviously you only hold Comet in your wallet. So if you want to sort of cash that out or swap it on the DEX itself, then you can do so with just the Comet that's in your wallet. So yeah, it's a fantastic little utility there. And like you just showed the nice little example there, sending love to yourself. And on the Explorer, it's a little bit deceptive in a way, where it says that there's no Erg transaction fee. There is a transaction fee, but it happens on the back end. That could sort of open up a number of sort of potentials as well, with multiple marketplaces then, and arbitraging between Babel boxes and the DEX and all kinds of things as well. So yeah, it's a fantastic utility there. We've just given a couple of examples on how to utilize that. Yeah, can't wait to see this adoption sort of go further, utilizing the Babel fee mechanism.
All right, let's move on to the community chats segments. CW, you take the first one.
Yeah, so with the community chats, like to highlight the community chats, sorry. We do these weekly. They're on Tuesdays. Unfortunately for myself, they're at 4 a.m. So I can't sort of tune in, unfortunately, and join. Yeah, get my sleep bugged once again. But they're fantastic to read through and get the sort of the tone of the ecosystem. Obviously, sort of we have a number of different topics sort of each week, and this week was basically around 5.0, leading into 6.0, starting that discussion. Even Saturgo was on there as well. So that's a full node wallet. And then, yeah, generally sort of the discussion stems around DeFi as well. That's a main sort of player in the ecosystem as well. But yeah, it can be anything around marketing or sort of what's hot in the week, like say FTX falling out and things like that. Yeah, it's good to get involved and speak to some of the core guys who do tune in and have these sort of nice in-depth discussions. And it just provides some substance in the community as well, having these sort of deep discussions as well.
And that happens in the main Ergo platform chat?
Yeah, on the main Telegram and Discord general channels. So if you're on, it doesn't matter what platform you're on there, they are bridged. So depending on which side you're on, you might see a little bot logo there, but that just means it's coming from Telegram or vice versa. So yeah, you don't miss out depending on which platform you're on.
All right, cool. Let's do, so just
You're
want to
laughing
apologize.
because you're the cause of this.
Just want to apologize to the community for Monday in Baseless. I mean, I know Baseless is a shit show anyway, of non-seriousness and all that kind of stuff. So I figured that was a really fun place to try to test this out. And it started out with you know, all the news of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and that kind of thing, where you could type in a text prompt and get a feedback of that kind of thing. And I said, hey, actually, the guest we're going to interview next reached out to me. He's like, hey, have you heard of ChatGPT? And I was like, no, what's that? And he's like, well, look at this. So I hopped on the web. I looked. He's like, can we build this into a bot? I was like, it looks closed source. And he's like, ah, damn it. But then I dug a little deeper, and it looks like it is closed source, but they offer an API key with some API access to it. so I just took that, and it's really as simple as I'll show you. It's actually super simple. That's essentially my Perl code, and I will have to hide my API key right there. But that's it. Essentially, you ping my bot, it activates this command and spits back out the the response
return.
for OpenAI.
Yeah.
So after a day of that kind of thing, and people getting a little upset, I didn't want to, just because I could doesn't mean I should as far as that goes. So I took the liberty of doing this, and I'm not going to tell you where it is because you can come into Ergo Basis and ask where it is. But I made a chat that is called AI Ergo or Ergo AI. And not only did I add the OpenAI chatbot, but I also added the Stable Diffusion bot as well. And you can see that HQ has been pounding this thing relentlessly. I think he told me he was going to bed like an hour ago, and that's 57 prompts, after that kind of thing. And what we've done for fun too is we are you can actually have OpenAI chat write you a prompt that's super descriptive and go for there. So you can see he finally went to bed. Oh yeah.
So yeah, with if you haven't been around the socials the last couple of, or basically week really, the Open AI has been pretty popular across all social channels, and it's basically you can just ask any question or phrase or basically anything. You can ask it anything, and it'll return some sort of text, whether you want to learn how to write a smart contract, or if you want to get philosophical and ask all kinds of questions, or simple question like why is the sky blue, you can ask and it'll return this sort of text and things as well. So in baseless, QX sort of released this, and everyone, all the degens, everyone jumped on board and was asking all kinds of questions, and it kind of spammed everything. But yeah, it was pretty funny reading some of the questions, even the responses as well.
I've implemented something like this at the university where I work for students, and I consider it an idea generation prompt. So if you have some sort of small writer's block about trying to find something, you throw the idea into the OpenAI bot with just a couple sentences, ask for a short little description, boom, it shoots you out something that then you can look through, read it, spark the imagination, go from there. Same with the dream bot that I have in here for a Stable Diffusion. If you have some sort of imagery you're working on that you're stuck on, and you need a couple prompts of ideas of what it might look like, I'm a horrible drawer, but I do stuff digitally, so I'm saved by my tools as far as that goes. But exactly like that, you stick it in there, you get an idea, you go from there, you even build off it, because whatever Stable Diffusion makes for you is essentially royalty free as far as that goes, and you can use it everywhere. So moral of the story, these kind of tooling, these simple toolings, and I believe you've talked about this too when you've seen some of my stuff on the dev updates, CW.
Yep.
This kind of simple tooling can really, ride in the background and educate you, get you better at what you're doing, give you that stepping stone up to maybe start working on the blockchain directly at some point. So that kind of stuff's invaluable, and it's fun too, as long as the
And it just builds
degens.
engagement in the community itself. Just gets
Exactly.
people up and talking and excited. And obviously, with the bear market and the market sentiment at the moment, things are sort of a little bit quiet across the channels. And little things like this, it just sparks interest and starts a discussion. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, how many other blockchain channels do you know that have a dedicated AI channel where you can,
I'm
do
just
that kind
glad
of stuff?
personally that OpenAI wasn't around when I was at school, because that thing would have got smashed for my homework.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy, isn't it?
Definitely.
Oh. Yeah, I guess that's quite the worry. You can't run that kind of stuff through a plagiarism
Yep.
detector, because it's
Yep.
brand new text every time. Absolutely
Yep.
insane. Okay, great. The last thing about community, things that went on in the community that were mentioned. You want to take this, CW?
Yeah, it's a pretty big announcement that we saw recently, or just this week, and it was the MOU signed in Sri Lanka by Zengate. So people who aren't aware what Zengate is, it's one of Dan's projects, Dan Friedman, and he's partner there, Sam. He's Australian, so shout out Sam. So what they've basically done is signed an MOU with Sri Lankan entities to be able to ultimately use Palmyra. It's like a commodity dex that he's actually putting together on the Zengate side, and having Sri Lankan tea and other commodities and things on there. So it's big for the ecosystem, and Dan's been a big advocate and a big voice for commercial adoption of Ergo, and this is a huge step in that direction. What Dan's been delivering there on that front, it's fantastic to see, and hopefully we see a lot more of it with the commercial adoption side. He's obviously been giving us updates and things like that, like obviously with Palmyra and the Zengate side, but then obviously with the education front as well, having like integration for Ergo courses with a university and things like that. So yeah, getting out and about and discussing all these things, and anyone from the community can start building these sort of business relations as well. So you may not have to be in business itself to be able to utilize the blockchain and things like that, but you might have friends and family or contacts and all kinds of things. So you might be able to run the idea past them and see if they want to integrate Ergo into their ecosystem at some point. So by all means, reach out and ask the question and start the conversation.
That's great. And I think he said too that when we dragged him into chat today for a brief second, Dan's kind of the flyby texter, where you summon him, he comes for literally one statement and then he magically poofs away. But he said that they were working on an AMA soon about this.
Yeah, so you can jump onto their Discord channel, the Zengate Discord channel, and provide a number of questions and things there. And they'll do an AMA series and just to answer community questions and things like that. So if you have any questions around what this signing or the MOU means for the Ergo ecosystem, Zengate, or even Palmyra, what it is and things like that, just seeking further information about the Zengate entity itself, by all means, jump on there and ask the questions. Dan and Sam will be able to provide those in detail, so it'd be great.
Cool, very cool. All right, it looks like we have our guest coming on. Let's bring him in. Fantastic.
Sounds good.
Nice to be here.
Oh, thanks so much for coming.
Sure.
Pleasure to have you, mate.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
So you are MGPai. I just want to give you a little backstory about MGPai. As I said earlier, when I was first diving into Ergo Hack 5 and I needed a way to interact with the blockchain, and we came across MGPai script, I reached out to him in the back end of Discord, and surely enough, he was more than happy to help out. I ran into some issues with my knowledge of Python as far as that goes, and he rushed me right through it, helped me out, and got me going. So I was actually interacting with the blockchain after that. So MG, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came into the Ergo environment, if you spend all your time in the Ergo environment or you dabble in other projects. Yeah, give us a little bio right now.
Yeah, sure. So I joined the community here in March, I would say. So I believe or May 2021. So I got interested by actually I was watching Son of a Tech, and who's a miner YouTuber. So I was getting bored of mining Ethereum. I was an Ethereum miner. So I wanted to see other coins that I could mine. So I saw Ergo introduced by Son of a Tech on YouTube. I watched his video on what Ergo is, and I became really interested because I really love the principles of Ergo. Developed in Ethereum. I did a little bit, but not a lot. I was a beginner, like I said. So I figured that in Ethereum, if anything I did, it would get lost. But there's just so many people developing constantly, and it's an actual team. It's not like individuals anymore. It's an actual team with funding from VCs and stuff doing the development. So I can't keep up with it. So I was like, if I do want to do some development and share my work and actually see people using it, why not start with a small project that honestly needs it, right? Honestly needs a community. So that's how I saw Ergo as, and that's how I started off. So, firstly, I wanted to start off by a project, so I decided an NFT project would be nice because I saw in the space that NFTs were there, but there were very few NFT projects there. I think mainly back then it was the Ergo Ergo names that was
Erg
there.
names, yep.
So I just saw that a lot. Problem was that first it wasn't open source, their back end, and second it seemed all centralized everything because you needed someone to provide the NFTs, a centralized service to actually give the NFTs, and you were actually sending funds to a wallet. You weren't send like a P2PK wallet like that begins with a nine. You weren't sending to a smart contract. So I was like, I'm pretty sure there must be a way to do this via smart contracts. And back then, I had no idea how smart contracts worked on Ergo. It's completely different from Ethereum because on Ethereum, smart contracts, they do the work for you. So you don't have to do any backend, no off-chain stuff. I didn't understand that at the time. I was so confused. So it was a huge learning curve. And I was beginner development. So I really only knew Python and I did a bit of Java because of school. So oh man, that was really difficult trying to pick up all the tools available on Ergo because there wasn't many much documentation at the time, and it was only Java stuff, and then there was a bit of Sigma Rust, which is even worse than Java for me. So I didn't even look at that. So I was just looking at Java, trying to learn, and from there, that's how I decided to come up with the Python wrapper that I made.
And what's that
A few
called? What's
months
that called,
later,
MG?
I think called ErgPy.
MG, can you tell us how, what are the features of ErgPi for on very simplest terms? What would anybody be able to do if they ran some scripts with ErgPi?
Right. So the first example that I have essentially is very basic, which any dev would want to do, is send erg automate sending erg to a wallet address. So all you would do is enter your wallet address as a parameter, and do like few other basic parameters like your wallet secret key, like your mnemonic, and then you would do amount you want to send, amount erg you want to send, any tokens you want to add. So you could just do that, all those basic parameters, and then it's just simple. You just run the script and it does it for you. I wanted to make it as simple as possible because um I tried looking for examples when I joined. Do a simple send. Just simple send. I couldn't find it. It took so long for me to figure it out. A simple send. But once I figured it out, I forced it into Python because I needed that so badly. That simple send. So I think if anyone wants to start off, of that's the basic thing you should start off with is how to send erg and study that really because it's a different concept from other blockchains to send erg because you're working with boxes essentially.
And that was, not just doing that kind of thing, even starting off something simple as a new dev on using ErgPi, you get introduced to so many different things. Like I try to send double send. I tried to send really fast twice, and all of a sudden I couldn't. So I was like, MG, what the hell just happened? Why is it saying this? And then you get dived into that world of why that happens. So you learn so much, even from just poking the blockchain a little bit.
I've said many a time as well, in regards to developer tooling and just breaking down the barriers there. So obviously yourself, nice example there on ErgPi, you saw like a deficiency in the ecosystem where you wanted to see more utilization of Python. So you built the tool for it, and then everyone can take advantage of that. So it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, removing those small barriers, you just let the floodgates go after that,
Yeah.
make the opportunity. Tell me about, what are you doing for comment? I see you jumping into the dev updates once in a while with those degens, I mean, degens in a loving way. I say it in a loving way. What are you working on with comment?
Yeah, so few months back, Comet reached out to me about working on a lottery, a decentralized lottery for them. And I figured that it would be a good project for me because I would get a better insight on how Ergo script works and off-chain things work. So essentially what the project is literally, as I said, it's a decentralized lottery, and to make it decentralized, you need heavy usage of Ergo script smart contracts. So there's a couple different contracts involved. Anything in Ergo, more complex scripts, you need a proxy address, a proxy script which lets the user send funds to the address, and it's picked up by another contract. And if something malfunctions, the proxy contract is able to refund the funds back to the user. So that's like the first step, first basic step of any complex Ergo script project. Then the second script essentially is the actual NFT, which I kind of had for my own project. So I kind of ported it to the lottery project. And this NFT script is essentially, I call it ticket script, and that's where that's the contract that actually provides you the Comet lottery ticket. So if you send a erg to it, essentially it says that if there's funds being pulled from the proxy contract and it meets the proper conditions, then send the sender of the funds into the proxy contract, send that person an ticket or an NFT that represents a ticket. Essentially, that's what it does. And there's a second like or a third contract after that, which is the tokens, the Comet, because you have to pay for the ticket in Comet. So the comment that's paid goes to the third script, which is I call it the collection script. That's where the script holds the comment. And then there's a fourth and final contract, which is the winner selection contract. So at the end of whatever time period, you could have a 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. All funds goes to the winner contract, and it's determined by some selections we have. So there's like a random number that gets selected, and there's a chance percentage, like a 10% chance of that random person who got selected having a chance to actually win. And if that person wins, he gets 90%, somewhere around that value, 90% of the funds are collected. Another 10%, like cool airdrop stuff happens. And if the person loses the 10% chance, then the lottery starts back up again. I call this the version 2 of the lottery, the second iteration. And this process goes on until someone is selected. So then, as I was mentioning earlier, ErgoTip is completely different. It doesn't do anything for you. So you actually have to write off-chain bots to execute these contracts. To actually work with these contracts, you need a node that essentially processes these transactions automatically. So from the past month or so, I've been developing an off-chain bot, and the good part about this is that it's not specifically for Comet. It's for you can use it, you can port this to other projects. I made it in a way so that I could also use it for other projects I make, or even if anyone else wants to use it, if I once I complete the documentation, of course. Other people can easily use this because I tried to read through the off-chain bots that Ergodex uses. So that any large project needs bots, and that that is not an easy task to read what they do. So hoping that once everything is audited properly and I make the contracts and the bot open source, that other people can also use this bot to easily get their service up and running, because I think that's the next logical step what the Ergo developer community needs. Like people don't understand, even like other devs who don't work with Ergo script, some of them don't understand that how Ergo script operates, that you need another node to essentially process transactions. So if there's another library, a good library for that, I think that'll be really useful.
And that is really cool that you're opening up that tooling to everybody else in the future. That's I mean you've shown that you've done that with ErgPi as well, and I think that's invaluable. That's a whole sense of the community that you can, even though you put a ton of work into this kind of thing, you're happy to say, hey, let me let you stand on the shoulders of all this work I've done, and you take it from here for making even something better next time. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, pays testament. I've said this numerous times, and once again, like to the development community here, it's and the emphasis on open source and everything like that. It raises everyone. So all these little tools and things that come to fruition throughout time, then it just ultimately makes the barrier of entry for the new person coming in a lot easier. And I just said it like obviously with the ErgPi side of things, but the execution bots or the off-chain bots, like you just mentioned, people not having to reinvent the wheel for their project. They can come and utilize your open source code once it is audited, and like you did mention, and utilize it for their own project. It's fantastic.
Can you tell us real quickly what people hear this, if they jump into the dev chats at all, they may hear this being passed around. But tell us a little bit of history about PaiNet. What is PaiNet? Why is it called PaiNet? Is it named after you? Is what's going on there?
Yeah, sure. So 2 months back we had a second version of testnet 5.0 testnet, or maybe more than 2 months, but it was the official testnet, and it had really fast block times, 5 seconds, 5 second block times compared to the 120 seconds the mainnet has. So the problem with 5 second block times are that it's too fast for infrastructure to catch up. So the nodes aren't designed to work at that fast speeds because it's constantly every 5 seconds, new transaction, new transaction, new transaction. Then the Explorer, it has to pick up that new transaction, process it, and so on. So the Explorer, the API, the node code itself, it's not meant for 5 second transactions. It's not built around that premise. So naturally, it kept going on. And the small issues very quickly added up with the fast blocks being produced and caused the testnet to essentially crash because other nodes can't keep up and it wasn't in sync. One node was at a different block height, another node was at a different block height, and this essentially just froze the blockchain. And being developers, that we need quick access to a testnet, to run whatever code, because mainnet, not only you're spending your
Well, that's what
valuable
Comet's
precious
for on
earth,
mainnet.
you're also
Sorry, go on.
hey, I work on that front. So not only you're spending your precious comment, you're actually it takes too long to confirm. 120 seconds, although once or twice that might be reasonable. But when you're running several tests, you're spending hours on tests. You can't just be waiting for 2 minutes each time you run something. So you need a test net that essentially copies everything, but maybe is a little faster. So, I figured out how to essentially launch a new network. So I launched a new network, and of course I named it after myself because I launched it. And I changed the block time to something a little more reasonable, around 40 seconds. And I put up the infrastructure. It's not easy. I mean, it's not hard to launch a new chain, put up your node, but it's a little bit harder to run up the infrastructure around that, like the API and Explorer. So that's why I believe not a lot of people actually consider doing this. So, I just I put a lot of infrastructure on cloud providers, and I shared that out because I needed it for myself, and I figured why not share it? Why should I just keep it to myself? So I decided to share it, and I think the core devs have a better things to do than look at make a new test net. So they just took mine and made that the official one, and now finance the
Yeah,
official.
doing the weekly developer updates, seen it mentioned numerous times, and I think one of the first times it actually provided an update. Um, not sure whether it was myself or Armenio mentioned it, and it's basically pronounced it as PainNet. So obviously, being a test net and testing code, and the difficulties that you can sort of see there, I think that was quite fitting sort of name, having that PainNet sort of analogy there. Was quite funny.
That's pretty good. One last thing for you, MG. Tell us about Ergo Sapiens.
Yeah. So Ergo Sapiens is my NFT project I've been working on for quite a while. So the premise of that is that it's an entirely decentralized NFT system. So all NFTs, they're stored in the metadata of NFTs. So in order to be decentralized, you cannot rely on someone's private key, because if you before the way to do this was or before like extensive research, the way to do this was you need someone's private key to sign a transaction, or else if I just had everything in the contracts, then anyone could sign it, but that means that they could also edit the metadata of the tokens itself, and they could put anything they want in it and claim that I was the owner, like I'm the artist, and they could put whatever in the description, image, or whatever they could modify. That obviously attracts bad actors, and I don't want that to be associated with my wallet address. whatever came out of it. So that posed a huge issue into making decentralized NFTs. So when Peasy came out with his AVL tree SDK, I talked to him and then did some research and I figured out that you could use AVL trees, which is also known as Plasma, to store tons of data on the Ergo blockchain. And AVL trees is the data system that's actually been planned to use for scaling solutions. Like that's going to be the backbone of scaling solutions. So this is pretty cool tech that's being used for these NFTs. So these AVL trees essentially store NFT metadata and you can access it via smart contracts. And that's how NFTs are being decentralized. And to add on to that, there's the Anon Real developer of Ergo Auction House is coming up or already came up with new standards, V2 standards that really enhance the space of NFTs on Ergo because um you're able to have more rich metadata specified in the smart contract itself, and you're able to play around with that data inside the smart contract. Before you couldn't; it was just arbitrary text, and there's no way of parsing it in smart contracts. So now with these V2 standards, you actually get access to this metadata within your smart contracts, which is huge because you can actually have everything centralized in the smart contract and pulling data from the NFTs. Like that's super cool. And um this is new too, as much as far as I know. I don't think you would exactly do something to this extent on Ethereum because Ethereum does stuff differently where they store metadata on IPFS and it just points to that link on blockchain. It's like, oh, go to this link if you want to see the data. In Ergo, I love Ergo because no, you're not going anywhere. It's inside the registries itself. It's in the actual blockchain. That's the cool part. So since it's actually in the blockchain itself, in the metadata, smart contracts now have access to this data. So that's the really cool part. So along with this edition, the second edition there is with collection collections NFT collections because before there's no way of associating one NFT and another one to the same collection, which kind of poses a huge problem, which honestly I would say is one of the issues for NFT space in Ergo. But this collection standard really helps improve that because it's all these NFTs are able to be linked to one, like in Cardano, the same as policy ID. So essentially, this collection standard allows for something similar, really similar to that. And I'm working on implementing that within my already the smart contracts with the AVLGs and everything. So and as far as I know, no NFT collection or anything, any NFTs on Ergo have done this so far, just because it's so
So
novel. So hopefully I'm looking to
that's
pioneer
that's
that.
that's that's crazy. So in short, though, just to explain for some people who that may have gone over a lot of people's heads, which is fine. Um, Ergo doesn't have something called policy IDs when you create a token. So if we're on Cardano per se, I could take that policy ID, plug it into Blockfrost or some other tool that lets me scan the blockchain for Cardano, and I could then see every single um, NFT that was part of that policy ID. But Ergo doesn't have that, and I don't think we can deep dive into why that happened. That's for your other shows, CW. But you're saying, in short, what you're saying is that you are developing a method to be able to put specific IDs, essentially data, inside these registers, which are a store of data for the block. And then you can, same way, you can look up these things and link them based on that ID.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have something out in the next few months. I'm gonna have good free time during my holiday break, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I can see you're in a dorm room right now, right?
Yeah.
One thing I sort of, the way I can kind of picture things at times and things like that, with all this utility and things, you're building along the way, like for instance, ErgPi, and then ultimately ending up now into the NFT space, with that utility there for utilizing AVL trees and everything like that. But think about it from the perspective of just sort of simple arithmetic and things like that. Like, yeah, you can throw a couple of numbers together and you can do the sums in your head. But for people who may not have been involved in any sort of math at all and things like that, you actually show the working on your piece of paper and the conclusion of the sum of the figures that you come to. Ultimately, all this tooling that's being put together by not just yourself, but everyone else in the community is all that little sort of notes written on the paper and all the working out and everything like that as well. So ultimately, it does allow people to get to the point where they want to be, but utilizing different aspects and utility throughout the ecosystem, and open sourcing everything and being able to discuss different points and things like that through, like I said, QX, you reached out to MG and asked for a couple of questions, but everything like this in the developer community, it gets me excited. And yeah, ultimately, end of the day, it just breaks down the barrier for entry for the newcomers into the ecosystem.
I don't have any more questions for you, MG. I really appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, this was great. Thank you for having me on. Overall, I'm really excited to see the progress in the Ergo community because I don't see anything slowing down. There's just more projects daily. If you're active in the developer, if you watch the Ergo platform YouTube videos, you'll see that there's always new people just popping up, looking to start new projects. Like we had Earthflip come out of nowhere, and I don't even think he knew too much about the Ergo
Yeah.
ecosystem. And bam, now he already has a project on. So, this shows that we're having good developer onboarding and it's just going to get better from here. So I'm glad the Ergo platform's growing even in the bear market, considering the ecosystem or the economy around us. So I'm happy to be here with everyone.
The community's happy to have you, and it's just a testament to your idea of all the work that you put into it, and then just throwing it up there for somebody else to use is a testament to what Ergo's about, and you're embodying that in what you say and in your actions as well. And that's the kind of stuff that lets people like the Ergflip person come in and create that app in 2 weeks without any previous knowledge. And then, well, I just saw a update yesterday that he's added 2 more games or something, which like just out of the blue. So it's that kind of stuff's amazing, and it gives me great hope that Ergo is a sustainable ecosystem that's can weather even the toughest storms.
Yeah, very well said. There's not much I can add to the 2 comments you just made there, gentlemen. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there. MG, thank you very much for tuning in today.
Of course, thanks for having me. Goodbye.
Well, that was great. I mean, I think I could talk all night about about that kind of demeanor and attitude and focus that somebody like MGPai has, and the benefit that it comes to the ecosystem. So I'm just going to cut myself off and move on to the next segment right now.
Yeah, it kind of just epitomizes Ergo as a whole, doesn't it? Having that
Yeah.
open, collaborative mindset, everyone benefits. Absolutely
insane. I can't imagine going to another chain and having that same kind of discourse. It's why we're here, 100%. Okay, we're starting to close up. The next section we have is the Sigmanauts update segment. And I know last week I spoke a lot about at the end about what the Sigmanauts are and how to maybe get involved with it or who to reach out to. And if you're watching the AMA, was that today? Was the AMA today? No.
Last night for me.
Okay, yeah. If you watch that, I managed to sneak in a question to Joe to have him start talking about the Sigmanauts a little bit there, so a little info there. But Sigmanauts, we had a really amazing all SIGs meeting last week. We had probably 3 or 4 times more people than we've had in the past. We joined the SIGCANs and the Sigmanauts for the first time for that meeting, which was a fantastic idea by one of the community members. We've got a mission statement that's hardening up this week, so we should be able to vote on it and at least get it in place by Sunday. Social's coming along. I did some tweets last week, hoping for some more. We've got some volunteer support to help with that. Treasury talk as well goes hand in hand with social. We're really coming along. We're picking up some steam, and stay tuned, please, for some communications from us as we develop more of an onboarding process that's a little bit clearer. And hopefully we reach out and catch some of you guys to come in and join with us as Sigmanauts. It's a very fun overview thing to sit on and to be part of, to really kind of steer directions of something that you love and you love being in, as far as that goes.
Yeah. It kind of stems onto like something I mentioned earlier as well. A lot of people do mention or have raised the question on how to get integrated or involved in the Ergo ecosystem, and who may not necessarily have the development background. And this is a perfect example of how to do so. So you might have skills across numerous sort of factors, whether that's community management, you can have graphic design, or you can just want to be involved in somewhere and just offer your help doing
Language
some
translator,
documentation
like you said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a perfect example of how you can get involved, and just the link's up on the website if you want to sort of onboard there in the current process. But like you mentioned, you're trying to streamline that at the moment. But yeah, following along on the discussions and the chats and everything, it's great to see everyone finding their voice and ironing out all these little sort of intricacies for the program itself, and ultimately being sort of a decentralized organization. I see they are set up hopefully at some point, and yeah, numerous aspects. So yeah, it's exciting times ahead.
That is great. CW, you want to close it out for today? I think we've had a healthy discussion. We've definitely gone over time. May have to make some cuts. But yeah, feel free, go for it. Yeah,
as always, been a pleasure chatting once again, and great for MG to be able to jump on and provide great insight there. As always, it's been a pleasure bringing all this information, and we have numerous sort of things going on throughout the week to look out for. Tuesdays, it kicks off with the community chats on Telegram and Discord. Wednesdays at 1 UTC is the weekly developer chat. So if you want to jump on and if you're developing something yourself, or you want to sort of just follow along, you can jump onto Discord there and on the development channel. Thursdays, we have the AMAs and the weekly updates. Obviously, with that, Joe's pretty frequent there and sort of alternate between Alex and Dan himself. We have this show itself, the Sigma update. Pleasure always talking to yourself, QX there. And obviously, one of the shows that I do, or a couple of shows, the Hash It Out. One of the great times I find each week, just being able to go on and talk with Noah and Armenio, just about anything sort of relevant in the industry that's current, or basically crypto related, philosophically related. We'd love to have a lot of new community members jump on board as well. So if you're interested in tuning into that, just hit me up in the DMs and we can organize a time to do so. We normally record on Wednesdays. And finally is the weekly developer update on Sundays. My favorite time of the week, jumping on there and going through that with Joe and myself, and being able to see all the progress that's happening week to week. And I'm always dumbfounded by the amount of sort of the amount of information and the progress that the developers, whether it's a community dev or the core side, what they sort of put in each week. It's just amazing, and there's no signs of that slowing up whatsoever. No, absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you so much, CW. I'm so glad you're feeling better. So glad to have you back on the show. Everybody be safe, be smart, and if you can't do those, just hold it. Exactly. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.